Once I stood at the foot of a great high mountain that I wanted so much to climb. And on top of this mountain was a beautiful fountain, and beside it the tree of life. I fell down on my knees at the foot of this mountain, cried out, Odin, what must I do? I want to climb up and see, want to learn from this tree that grows so clear in my view. Then I heard a great voice from the top of this mountain saying, child, these are my rules. Just start with faith and climb on upward between the etheric and rude. Started climbing upwards, taking Odin's advice, and the higher I got, the harder I climbed. I'm still climbing upwards, and the journey never ends. But through symbiosis, I farm and live free, climbing higher each day by the alchemist way. So, friend, if you're willing, climb this mountain with me. Oh, the cuckoo, she's a pretty bird. She warbles as she flies. She never hollers cuckoo till 4th day July. Gonna build me a log cabin on a mountain so high, so I can see Willie as he goes on by. I play cards in England, and I play cards in Spain. I'll bet you $10 I'll beat you this game. My wagon, well green, and my whip's in my hand. Step aside, little woman, my horses won't stand. Jack and Jack and I've known you from old. You robbed my poor pockets of my silver and my gold. Oh, the cuckoo, she's a pretty bird. She warbles as she flies. She'll cause you no trouble, and she'll tell you no lies.
Hail and welcome to Odin's Alchemy. This morning we have the pleasure of talking to kindred spirit and George Wiseman. Mr. Wiseman has been working on inventions with Brown's gas and finding different ways to put that to use and make better machines with it. And he's had all kinds of different experiments over the years. It's absolutely fascinating work, with the culmination of it being experiments and uses in human health and making a person's life just all around better. Welcome to the show, George. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here. I always resonate with the Odin type thing. So your alchemy and the Brown's gas seems to do transmutation. So it seems very interesting synchronicities that are happening. And I love to have fun with coming on and talking about this with people like yourself. It's rare these days when you can just walk down the street and find somebody that their eyes just don't glaze over when you start talking about various things like this.
Absolutely.
In any case, I guess I could do a little history first of how I got into Brown's gas. I grew up on a cattle ranch, so people often see me with a cowboy hat on because you can take the boy out of the country, but not the country out of the boy, as they say over here. And so I learned to fix almost anything. And as I got a little older and started getting interested in girls, I found that girls like money. So I figured, well, the only way a poor little rancher boy could make some money is be a prospector or an inventor. And I sucked at shoveling, so prospector was kind of out. It was a lot of hard work, and and so I started thinking, and on the ranch we actually built a lot of things that don't exist, like machinery that you just can't buy off the shelf just for specialized uses. And whenever anything would break down, I would always try to fix it better. I would analyze why it broke and make it better. I got very good at that sort of thing, and I've actually carried that through into even the machines that I make today. I make them so that they're easily. So first of all, they don't break down, and if they do break down, they're easily repaired or fixed without too much trouble. And I really don't like this replacement society they have today. Anyway, on as it goes.
That's such a huge deal, the easy maintenance, because even things that are well made anymore are made so it takes an engineer damn near to replace it. And like you said, in a farm, we're used to things breaking, even if they are well made. Um, so easy maintenance is such an amazing thing. I love that. Love it.
Yeah. So in any case, I started. I did make a couple of inventions. One of them was a carburetor enhancer, which it was a kind of it's weird. I've made more money from my side effects than I ever have from my main lines of research. So one of the side effects was this carburetor enhancer thing, where you could put a device, actually a couple little tubes, $15 worth of parts on a carburetor. Now I know they don't make carburetors anymore, but we're talking back in the day. Got a few decades on me. And the 15 minutes worth of, or sorry, $15 worth of parts, an hour hood up to hood down, it would gain at least 25% in fuel mileage on virtually all vehicles, all carbureted vehicles. So that particular thing started my business where I was actually starting to make money and be self-supporting. And I've always been a self-employed inventor ever since. And I've been married 3 times, so that I did manage to catch a lady. So as I was doing the fuel savers, I ran across this thing called Brown's gas, and at the time, it was being used as a fuel gas for torches to replace acetylene in a torch. So I wanted one of those in my own shop because as an inventor, I'm always building things that aren't off the shelf. I have to do several things, and supposedly you could weld titanium to plastic with this thing, which you cannot, by the way. That was a myth. But I found a lot of myths as it went on. But I decided, and I was given a quote of $300,000 for one of these machines that could do this. Yeah, exactly. So I decided, well, that was way out of my budget. So I decided, as an inventor, I just simply would build my own machine, and because I was used to building things like back on the farm. And so I studied everything I could find about Brown's gas from around the world. And as I got it all together, I'm also an alternative energy researcher. So as I got it together and started doing my experiments, I found that I put together my own Brown's gas machine based on what I knew and surmised and what have you. And as I was doing my experiments, I wrote Brown's gas book 1. And as I was putting the machine together and figured out how to do a good machine, that was Brown's gas book 2. And Brown's gas book 3 isn't yet written because I just haven't had time. Things have just gotten way too busy. So and that would be on the applications of Brown's gas, which there are many practical applications. One of which is the health application, which I'll get to in just a minute. But what happened in this case is I built a machine that I didn't know this was the case. It was half the size, half the weight, and twice as efficient as any of the current machines that were out there, including that $300,000 quote, which the price on those came down really fast when I started selling my machines.
No doubt.
And I sold several hundred of them. And in the meantime, I started using Brown's gas as a fuel-saving device as well, because if you put a little bit of Brown's gas in the air mixture going into the engine, it makes the combustion so much more efficient. And again, we could get over 25% gain in fuel economy with this Brown's gas. So then that could be applied on fuel-injected vehicles and carbureted vehicles and diesel vehicles, virtually any carbon-based fuel consumption, including coal-fired plants and things like that. So it didn't matter. In fact, the longer hydrocarbon chain, the better it worked. So even better in coal.
Oh, nice. That's very interesting, because then when you look at some of these other alternative energy type things like the GEAT, attachment to go onto a gasoline engine doesn't really particularly work on a diesel setup. So that's very interesting that this also would have then applied to a diesel.
Yes, and I have a couple other fuel savers for diesels as well. One of which I call the HYCO 2 DT. D stands for there's the HYCO 2 technology diesel turbocharged. So turbocharged diesel engines, in this case, we're getting up to 50% increase in their fuel economy with the
Wow.
with that technology. So those are all books that I have on my website, and people can go and buy the books and duplicate those experiments, and hundreds of thousands of people have. I think I'm well over 200,000 people now are using my technology because I go directly to the public. I don't bother to patent my inventions. I detail exactly what's going on in books, and then sell the books. And I had this one guy, just a quick little story, who came up to me and shook my hand at my place, my little farm I was operating at the time. And he said, "Thank you very much. You see that RV over there? What I did is I took your carburetor enhancer book, which he bought from me for, I think it was about $14 at the time or something like that. He set up 4 mechanics in his town installing these carburetor enhancers. And within 2 years, he retired and he bought the RV, and now he was just going to travel around. The first place he stopped was come to shake my hand."
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
I made $6 on that one.
I
So
love it. I love it.
lots of people have made quite a lot of money selling or making and applying the technologies that we've done. Most people just simply apply it to their own vehicles, but lots of people have made businesses out of them. And a few have actually been, a couple have been in the 7 figures, most of them in the 6 figures range. So, and a lot of them, it just, people can do that. And I've done it myself. I'm no longer hurting for any kind of financial. I have pretty much everything I need. So that's
wonderful.
And it actually is really wonderful because of what's happening right now, which we'll get to in the relatively near future. But as things progressed from the 80s into the 90s, in 1996, one of my water torch customers, that's what I call them, my brown gas electrolyzer, I call them water torches. One of my water torch customers got in touch with me and said that he had bubbled brown gas in water and applied the water to a melanoma on his forehead, keeping the water wet, like re-wetting it several times a day, and put it in a little cap, bottle cap, and then with the cotton. And in 3 weeks' time, his melanoma was gone. And I didn't believe him. Okay, I should have believed him, but I didn't. I couldn't see how a combustible gas would be a healthful thing for people, and I knew it to be a combustible gas and what have you. So, however, even though I didn't believe him and I didn't tell him that, I still haven't. He'll watch one of these videos someday and he'll see what I was. I take as many, I get as much feedback as I can, and feedback that's interesting. I spread it out to my other customers, and I started getting a lot of other testimonials back from people taking away age spots, rashes, all kinds of things by applying the bubbled water to their skin. And some people started drinking it, and they were having internal good things happening. And so that was in 1996. In 2005, enough of people had responded to me, hundreds, that I decided, okay, I'm going to bubble it and start drinking it myself just to see what happens. And from 2005 to 2007, I didn't get sick anymore. In fact, I haven't been sick since, like a cold, flu, that kind of thing, right? I've had a sniffle a couple of times, but I've never, but my body just got rid of it, whatever it was, and that was it. So I figured, yeah, this is really good. And so I built a tabletop electrolyzer that I called the ER50 back in those days, made out of PVC pipe and stuff, and started selling that and a kit. And I sold thousands of those. And the testimonials we started getting back were, of course, the same as with the big machines, but people didn't have to pay like several $1,000s for a machine, just a few $100s. So anyway, that was doing really well. Now, the side effect that we're talking that I like to say is a personal reason, because this is why I'm so passionate to help people. Even though I've reached a point in my life where I'm financially independent, I don't need to work anymore. I could retire. I feel a driving need to help as many people as possible because of what I'm going to tell you next. My wife, in about 2007 or something, was starting to get really ill. At that point, diabetes showed up and what have you. It turned out that the diabetes wasn't the problem. As we continued in this degenerative disease that was happening, it turns out that the underlying problem was lupus, and we battled that disease for until March of 2016 when she died. My customers from 2005 till 2016 were asking me, can we inhale the gas? Just like I have a machine turned on right over here. It's an ER50 actually. And what I do is I have the cannulas, which look like oxygen cannulas, and you can inhale the gas, which I like to do during interviews like this so that people can see actually being done. And it's simple as that. You turn on the machine, you put on the cannulas, you're inhaling the gas. And I usually inhale the gas as long as I'm sitting at a computer, which these days is somewhere between 4 and 8 hours a day. So I get a lot of inhalation done. In any case, I was telling the people, no, it's not a good idea to inhale the gas because, again, I knew it as a combustible mixture and I wasn't being very open-minded. So I'm very sorry for those people that I gave that advice to. I was wrong. I was so wrong. And I apologize. So we get back to December of 2016. Sorry, 2015. December of 2015. I'm getting my March and December thing mixed up there. Anyway.
I live off grid, brother. I regularly have no idea what year it is or month or anything because it doesn't matter.
Oh, you don't get a bill with a date on it every month. Yeah, that's true. So anyway, of December of 2015, one of my customers sent me a video of a Korean hydrogen bar where people could go in and inhale just like this Brown's gas whenever they pay a couple bucks, just like we buy a cup of coffee. And I realized something I knew from way back is if you hydrogen has the fastest diffusion rate of any gas known to man. It's the smallest molecule, all that sort of thing. So just a fraction of a inch away from the cannulas, it's mixed with enough air that it's no longer explosive. It's absolutely safe to inhale. You're not going to blow up your lungs or anything like that. And it's absolutely non-toxic. There's nothing that it kills. It kills nothing. It only helps life. And it's a building block of life. We can get to that in just a little bit too. So in any case, I realized that I had been giving the wrong information, that it was safe to inhale the gas. But by that time, I was the 24/7 caretaker of my late wife. And she couldn't even roll over in bed. She'd lost her hair. She'd lost her sight. I carried her to the bathroom. I had to cook all the meals, go get everything. It was 24/7. I was so tired because I couldn't sleep for more than 20 or 30 minutes at a time as I took care of this wonderful woman who was a multimedia artist, and losing her eyesight and her ability to do her art and stuff, it was killing her just from that. In any case, she passed away in March of 2016 from the lupus, and after that, I really didn't care if I lived or died for quite a little while there. The grief was pretty intense, and I have several stories about that. But the important thing is to this conversation is that I decided I would try inhaling the gas. So I rigged up a machine just like I'm inhaling with right now, and I put a video camera out in front of me so that if something bad happened, there would at least be a video record of my idiocy. And that video is on my YouTube channel. And so at that point, I inhaled for 15 minutes, about 6:30 at night, and I didn't sleep that night at all. I was absolutely alert and wide awake, which I actually still use that effect today, because as I'm sitting at the computer and I would otherwise get bored, it just keeps me alert. It's very nice. So anyway, that was interesting, and so I just kept inhaling because I wanted to prove that it was safe, because I would never recommend anything to anyone until I tried it myself, which is the same with all my fuel savers. Everything I've ever done or tried, I do it for myself first, and then I write a book on how to do it, and I send that out, which usually results in a whole bunch of people writing back to me with their thoughts, and which I then incorporate in the next version of book and send that out. And then everybody thinks I'm a genius when all I'm doing is just listening to everybody else telling me. So this really works. In any case, I discovered that things like my psoriasis disappeared. I had thick peeling skin on my elbows, knees, and feet, and I thought that was just calluses because then I grew up on a cattle ranch. The calluses were like that. And when it peeled off, it was like baby skin smooth underneath the skin. It was incredible. But it was like a snake skin peeling off, great chunks of skin, and that was a little disconcerting. But since it didn't hurt or anything, I just kind of went with it. And then other things started to happen. In fact, I have a long list, which is on my Eagle-Research. I think it's on my eagle-research.life website. In any case.
Yeah, I was watching your speech from the water conference, and you were clicking through the list, and I could hear it. And it was click, 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 and it was like a 5-minute thing. You're click, 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 click.
Yes, the audience started to laugh about halfway through because I did it in alphabetical order, so they had a bit of an idea how much longer it was going to take. And by the time you're getting into the G's or something, it's the different ailments that my customers had told me about, and I did a little yellow star asterisk by that. Yeah, that was the water conference, Gerald Pollack's water conference in Germany, Bad Soden, Germany, in October of 2019, and those videos are online if anybody wants to look at those. So in any case, yes, it was a long list of things that it was helping. So after a little while, I could see it didn't hurt me, and it was doing some interesting things like we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. So I decided I'd make the recommendation. So I started selling even more of the ER50s as the for inhalation, modified for inhalation. And the testimonials I got back from that were 10 times better than anything I had gotten before. And this brings me to why I'm so passionate. About 3 months after I made that recommendation, a woman got back in touch with me who said she had lupus. She had lupus symptoms. And in 3 weeks' time, her lupus symptoms were gone.
Wow. That's
I had
insane.
fought with my late wife lupus for over 10 years to the point where she was saying, let me go. I don't want this to be happening to you. Let me go. I couldn't let her go. This kind of thing hurts not only the people who are sick, but the caretakers as well, because you can't let them go. So I am now passionate to help as many people as possible not go through the kind of situation that we went through. Health is amazing, and since I've become healthier, like if you look at my pictures on that video, you'll see that I had a pure white beard and my mustache was white, and I actually had less hair, and my hair has gone gray again now and such. Those are visible signs, but also I don't have scars anymore. I had a scar on my forehead. I had scars all over my body. They've all healed. All these kind of things, it's showing that there's a 30 to 50% life extension, healthful life extension, when they're doing the mouse studies and stuff like that with the 2% gas, the Brown's gas. It's incredible. How much is it worth to get decades extra healthy life? So you can enjoy the grandkids and great grandkids, for example. I mean, there is no price. I would, there's nothing anyone could pay me to stop me inhaling the gas every day for as long as I get a chance. So in any case, I'm passionate because I love this woman and I want other people not to have to go through what we went through. So even though I could just quit, I don't need to do this. There's no financial incentive for me to do it. It's totally passion. This is my passion, to help as many people as possible. So why does it work? It works because we are by volume 62% hydrogen, by volume, not by weight, but by volume. So we're 62% hydrogen. We are 24% oxygen, so mostly oxygen and hydrogen. We're 12% carbon and 2% everything else. So when they're talking about nutrition, they're talking about vitamins and minerals, they're talking about the 2%, not the 62%. So our major macronutrient is hydrogen. If you're hydrogen deficient, and most of us are, because we've destroyed the gut bacteria that actually pull the hydrogen from our hydrocarbon foods, because that's how you get your hydrogen. So most of us are hydrogen deficient. Like if you have a scar on your body, you're hydrogen deficient, for example. If you have
people with
mole,
hypertrophic scar tissue probably really have a hydrogen deficiency then.
So many people have shown me the pictures of their scars having healed. And one guy who works here is he had a motorcycle accident, and one of his arms, the skin had been peeled pretty much right off, right down to one layer. And so he had big, massive scars on his arm. Those scars were not only all gone, but once the scars were gone, the skin actually started to get its tone back. Like he had a relatively dark skin, and you could still see where the scar was because it was white skin, new skin. But now even the tone of his skin is coming back. It's incredible. It's like he never had
amazing
that kind of it is. So the body knows how to heal, which brings me to the next point. If you are hydrogen deficient, the body also knows how to stay alive. If you're, for example, if you're out in the cold and you're getting hypothermia, the body will shut off heat or blood circulation to your extremities to preserve core temperature. The body knows how to stay alive. So, but the body also knows how to heal. So the first thing that happens when you're hydrogen deficient is the body starts shutting off extraneous systems that are not immediately life-threatening. The first one to go is the regeneration system. So if you have any scars or something, you'll just get, or the body's just patching instead of healing. The next thing that starts to go is the immune systems. Again, that's not immediately life-threatening. And then if you're still so hydrogen deficient, your organs start to fail, which is why a lot of these diseases that are out there, like pancreas and liver and all that kind of stuff, the kidneys, they start to fail, and then you die. So you start getting hydrogen, the first thing that happens is your organs start to heal. An example on myself is that I had a heart murmur for over 50 years. There's a bad fluttery heart valve, okay? A couple of years ago, I had a physical, and I told the doctor that I had a heart murmur, and he said, "No, you don't. The skin is your largest organ. All my scars were healing off my skin. Your organs
You have fantastic skin. You really do.
Thank you. So in any case, the organs heal, then the immune system comes back online. So I haven't been sick, but also I had warts. I had a hand warts and I had a plantar's wart on my foot. And I noticed that my warts were gone one day. That was before I even noticed that my scars were gone. Now, this took about 8 months for that to happen. It takes a while for the body to heal once it starts getting nutrition. And again, this is nutrition. It's not drugs or anything. It's your most important macronutrient. So anyway, the warts, which are a virus, disappeared. My immune system got strong enough to get rid of viruses in my body that I'd had for 50 years. Now I'm in my mid-60s now, so that was a while back. I didn't start getting the hand warts and stuff until I was 9 or 10 or 12 or something like that. Anyway,
just the typical planter's wart type thing.
Yeah. It was nasty. It was not nice. Yeah. Anyway, it's gone, and I like that.
You
but
bet.
These are the things that I was living with and thinking I was healthy. All these things. Now, another thing that bothered me was the neuropathy. I was losing the feeling in the palm of my left hand. In fact, I completely lost the feeling in the palm of my left hand and on the fronts of my legs. But as I was inhaling, every week I would gain a little more feeling back. And eventually, about the time that I realized I had all the feeling back, I realized that the fronts of my legs had all the feeling back as well. And that was, so again, my neuropathies and stuff all healed. And and have stayed healed. I've never had a problem with them again. So the next thing that happens is the immune system, as I was saying, kicks back into gear and got rid of viruses and maybe a lot of other things that were residing in my body, because people need to realize that most pathogens in the world are endemic in our bodies. We have a little of everything. Whatever goes around, comes around, it's in there, and your immune system keeps it in check. This is what they're calling terrain theory rather than germ theory. As long as your immune system, the terrain, is healthy and strong, it keeps the germs in check. I'm not saying there aren't any germs. I'm saying the terrain is more important than the germs. If the terrain gets bad, bad for us, healthy for the germs will take advantage of that. It's called opportunistic. And then suddenly you'll have a whole bunch of germs that causes the symptoms that cause what they call the disease. So in any case, getting back to the next thing that happens is now your immune systems are back online, your regeneration comes back online, and that's where your scars heal and all that kind of thing. So people need to get their hydrogen into their bodies, so that with the supplementation this way or some other, and the Brown's gas seems to be the most efficacious way to do it, because now what is Brown's gas? Again, we've got the hydrogen, but we also have a third gas, hydrogen and oxygen in the Brown's gas, but a third gas that I call electrically expanded water, which again I discovered back in about 1996 when we were finding that our electrolyzers were actually producing about 30% more gas than they should. Now, we know there's no such thing as over unity. There's just too small of a box. If you're getting more energy out than, or gas out than you're calculating, it means you drew your box too small. It's a favorite over unity device I like to point out to people is a light switch. You go over there and you put in this much energy and you do thousands of watts of power demonstrated, but you didn't draw a box big enough to include the hydroelectric dam down the road.
Yeah.
So what happens in the Brown's gas is that we have this third gas, which is actually generating what we would think of as the over unity gas, because the Faraday equations say you put in a certain amount of electricity, you get a certain amount of gas. If you're getting more gas than that, then something else is happening. Well, see, it turns out that the something else that's happening is this third gas being produced. It has nothing to do with the Faraday equations. It has to do with the side effect of electrolysis. So what's happening is you have your anode and your cathode. And your anode is making the oxygen, your cathode is making the hydrogen. And if you have no membrane in the middle, which is about where my nose is, if you're looking in the middle here, then an electron bridge actually forms across the cell, right across between the anode and cathode. And that electron bridge is actually shoving electrons into water. So right in the middle of the cell, outside of the electrolysis itself, having nothing to do with the generation of the hydrogen and oxygen, this third gas is being formed. And what it is water that's had electrons stuffed into it to the point where it becomes a gaseous form of water, which is not water vapor or steam. If you cool it, water vapor and steam will condense into water. This gas will not condense into water if you cool it. So it's a stable plasma form of water. It's called a negatively charged because it's electrons. Electrons are negative charged. It's a negatively charged plasma form of water. And this electrically expanded water is the reason why Brown's gas is about 30%, according to studies that are going on in Germany right now, about 30% more therapeutically efficacious than just straight molecular hydrogen, which you can get a lot of molecular hydrogen machines out there. And they're good. People should be getting at least a hydrogen, even the hydrogen tablets or anything like that. Whatever they can do, get some hydrogen into yourself. But if you want the most optimum healing, then try to get the Brown's gas. So the Brown's gas provides not only the hydrogen, which is the building block of life, but like any brick, it doesn't do anything by itself. It requires energy. And people that are ill generally have compromised energy generation systems because have used up all their energy supplies. So they aren't making very much energy. So having this therapeutic gas, inhaling it, which provides some energy that bypasses, kind of like a jump start on a car, bypasses the energy systems that are in the body and provides energy directly, really does help the healing process quicker. Now, hydrogen can do a lot of energy. There's a lot of reasons why hydrogen helps the body heal, but this energy, the electrically expanded water, helps it even more. Any questions so far?
Nope. Well, I've got a lot of them, but I'm going to let you get through this, and then holy smoke, yeah, we got so many things to talk about here that I would really like to go through, including where the hydrogen's actually being generated from, understanding so you're pulling over obviously the electrons or the negative side of it, which means that you're leaving the ion side of it. So then you're going to be drawing ions because now you've got this extra charge in there that's going to want to automatically draw ions. The whole thing is fascinating. And then also from an alchemist point of view, the oxygen on the one side, on your anodic side, what's going on is the anode in itself typically, now this is in a battery, not in an electrolysis. So with electrolysis, you're putting charge in, and then once the system's at homeostasis, then it starts degrading, and then that energy that was put in starts breaking back down and coming back out. And through that, the oxygen is grabbing off of the deterioration of the anode and then carrying, again, those electrons, that negative charge, over to the cathode side. And that's transition is happening through the oxygen, where on the cathode side, the transition of the energy that's happening is happening through the hydrogen. So then when you look at the hydrogen and oxygen in and of themselves, they're really acting in like a mercurial fashion. If you understand the way philosophical mercury works, what you're talking about is then you've got your sulfur or your power, and then you've got your salt on the bottom, and the mercury is what's making the transition of that power happen. And so it really appears, especially when I'm watching your welding videos, the way that you're able, it's opening up that transition so much easier. Very similar to like the way water will boil at a given temperature, but when you take away that atmospheric pressure, now the water will, you can boil the water at room temperature or lower if you pull away enough atmospheric pressure. So it appears like the hydrogen in and of itself is almost doing that same action where it's pulling away the pressure, and now the electrons are able to do their job in so much more of an efficient manner. So it's really just acting as just a super mercury is what's going on here. I'm
Yes,
sorry. Go ahead.
no, your concepts are pretty much right on the money. First of all, when you're talking about a vacuum, that is what the Brown's gas does, because when it expands 1,866 times from water to a gaseous form. Then, of course, when it contracts back to water, you have that contraction of 1,866 times. So that creates, if you're in an enclosed container, it creates a hard vacuum. But if you look at the flame is going to be long and narrow. You've probably seen pictures or videos of the flame, a Brown's gas flame. And the reason it's so long and narrow is because as it's combusting, it's actually contracting that 1,800 times, and the atmospheric pressure, it's actually creating a tube or a tunnel in the air as it's going out there and then collapsing and filling itself up again. So the air itself constrains the flame into a long, thin tube. And I find it fascinating as far as that goes. But the next thing is that the electrons are then released. So not only do you have the vacuum, like you apply the flame to a material, it isn't a heat flame. Like if you take an infrared thermometer and look at the flame, it's only around, I think, 270 degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit. I don't remember which. Yeah, it's about 134 C, 274 F. So in any case, it's a relatively low temperature, barely above the boiling point of water. But the flame, you apply it to something like a space shuttle ceramic, which is made to withstand thousands of degrees as the space shuttle's coming back in through the atmosphere. It'll just burn right through that relatively cool flame that you can literally wave your hand through will burn right through space shuttle ceramic, no problem at all. Yet it will hardly boil water. You put the flame on water, it'll hardly boil it. It welds aluminum the nicest as anything you've ever seen. Like anybody who understands welding with a torch, and they start welding aluminum with this thing, or brazing or anything like that, it works beautifully. It's crazy because you can control everything so nice and neatly, because it isn't a heat flame, it's an electrical flame. And what happens is the electrons are being beamed right into the material, the atomic or molecular structure of the material. And that material is accepting those electrons and then has to do something with that energy. And generally speaking, it heats up. Now, materials that get rid of energy really easily, like aluminum, don't heat up that much, and water hardly heats up at all, and air hardly heats up at all. But materials like titanium, which have more resistance to the heat dissipation, they'll glow bright white, and because that's the only way it can radiate out that energy to get rid of it. Then and because of the laws of entropy, we're taking everything goes to the lowest common denominator kind of thing. So in any
Yeah.
case, that you're seeing the flame doesn't change temperature, but what you apply the flame to changes its temperature or energy characteristics and what have you. So yes, quite a bit of that it goes on there. And then we get just because I want to mention it, the transmutation. When you're operating these electrolyzers, we discovered that they make sludge, and for a long time we didn't pay too much attention to that. But then people are saying, "Oh, the plates are degrading," and the fine little filings are falling to the bottom of the electrolysis cells, and that's what's causing the sludge. And we tested the sludge, and we found that indeed it has all the elements in it: iron, chromium, nickel, all the kinds of things of stainless steel that we're using in our electrodes. But the funny thing was, our electrodes were not degrading.
Right.
Now, if you have electrolyzers that go over the electrodeposition voltage of the particular material, they will degrade. But in our case, we were keeping the voltages under the electrodeposition voltage, so the plates were not degrading. An example: a chiropractor by the name of Dr. Lloyd Jacob was doing the Brown's gas treatments on his customers, patients, for years, using an ER 1200 water torch that we had made back in the day when we were doing that. And so for over 8 hours a day, he'd be running this machine at 100% capacity, helping all of these people. In fact, it's funny. He built an electrolyzer first from my Brown's gas book too, and then he had a guy build it, and then when that one broke down, he called me up and told me the guy who built it had moved out of town, and his customers told him that if they couldn't get a Brown's gas treatment along with the regular chiropractic treatment, they weren't even going to come in. It was that effective. They considered the Brown's gas to be more efficacious than the regular chiropractor. So so he was kind of in a panic because he'd be out of business if he couldn't provide him with the Brown's gas that they had now gotten used to, right? So I was able to sell him immediately one of my commercial machines, and so he used that one for several years. And every year he built up enough sludge that it had to be cleaned out. So over 3 years' time, during these cleanouts, I did the cleaning out for him. I saved the sludge, just set it aside. I didn't really pay too much attention. I just thought, oh, it's interesting, and didn't throw it down the drain. And that sludge was analyzed, as we said, and it was all the same materials as in the plates. The plates of a new machine weighed 19 pounds. Coincidentally, the sludge I accumulated out of 3 years' time was 19 pounds. That's just coincidence, as the case may be, whatever. And then, but the plates in the machine still weighed 19 pounds. They had not degraded, and all of this stuff had formed in the machine. So that's one of the ways that we're noticing the transmutation happening in the electrolyzers. Now, there's ways that you can minimize that, because people that are using the electrolyzers for health purposes don't want to be cleaning out a lot of sludge. But for the people who want to make elements from water, here's a way that can be done.
Well, now I also noticed that you're putting a heavy hydrogen salt in with the mixture. So now there's my question. With you're obviously you're weighing your cathode and your anode, and you're seeing that there's no change in those, and you're weighing your plates. Now, how much water throughout this process are you losing, and how much salt? How often are you having to change out and replace this salt? Because when you take and you look at even a normal battery, what really causes the battery to usually stop carrying voltage for you is the breakdown of the salt. The salt's causing the electroconductivity entirely. You can take distilled water and there's no electroconductivity whatsoever in it. It's not until you throw in that salt that it starts opening those things up and having those reactions. So how much are you having to go through and refill salt? And then if so, what's the condition of the salt after you've removed it when you're looking at this sludge? What kind of conditions are you seeing with your salt that you're using?
Okay. In my experience as a certified automotive technician and understanding what batteries, my understanding of what batteries are going, they usually fail due to mechanical problems in that they, for example, people left an uncharged battery in the cold weather and it froze and the ice broke apart the plates. So mechanically they can fail. Or the next thing that causes them to fail is sulfation. In any
Yeah,
case,
yeah,
so what happens is it forms a hard sulfide layer over the lead oxide, lead or lead oxide, as the case may be, so that the electrons can't travel anymore. The lead is still there, the sulfur is still there, everything is still there, the catalyst and the electrode materials, but they've become unusable because of this sulfide layer.
yeah.
Now I
And
invented,
anybody that's never experienced that, you open up your cell, it smells just like a rotten egg. It's very obvious when you see
yes,
this.
but you'll also see a white crystallization, and it might even look a little like a foam or a powder or whatever on the plates. In any case, those crystals, those sulfide crystals, prevent the battery from operating anymore. And I invented a battery charger that actually I call it capacitive battery charger. You can build it yourself with usually less than $5 worth of parts. You can even modify regular battery chargers where you take out the transformer and put in the capacitors. I did that myself, and that's my favorite battery charger currently. And the and you can buy that book on my website as well for the capacitor battery charger, and it removes that sulfide layer because the sulfide layer requires a much higher voltage than regular battery chargers will allow, and up to 80, maybe even 100 volts to get across a 12-volt series cell. So my capacitive battery charger will go to that voltage and push amperage through until it dissolves that sulfide layer. And if the plates themselves haven't been too damaged by the lye crystallization, excuse me, not lye, the sulfur crystallization, then the battery becomes fully recharged and usable again. Okay, so that said about batteries, it comes back to the electrolyzer. The salt that I'm putting in there is called lye, sodium hydroxide. Now, there's many different catalysts that you can use, and a catalyst is defined by something that stays in the machine. In other words, it's not consumed by the process. So I'm still using lye mixture that I originally mixed in 1986. Now, I have occasionally had to add a little bit of lye because in theory, none of it ever comes out. In practice, a little bit can ride out on the water moisture droplets, not the gas itself. The gas is pure, but if there's a little water vapor or steam, then a tiny little bit of the lye can be in that water droplet and come out of the machine. But it doesn't come out because it was consumed. It comes out because it went out with the steam. Okay, so that's pretty much the only way that lye it leaves the machine. Otherwise, it stays in the machine, and I tell my customers that are using the new health machine is called the AquaCure AC50. Just a quick little recap is that my current wife told me that no woman would want that assembly of PVC tubing in their house. And if I wanted to sell a lot of machines, I was going to have to put a case on it and make it look pretty. I don't know if it looks pretty, but it seems to be acceptable. In any case, and I put a bunch more safety features on it and what have you. And so that became the AquaCure AC50, whereas it was the ER50 before with the assembly of pipes. So the AquaCure AC50 is what we're selling now, and it's helping a lot of people. So I tell my people who are doing the AquaCure that they don't need to get rid of the lye solution. What they do is they pour it out into a pot or jar, and then just let it settle. That's my current way that we do it. Over time, a couple days time, this very, very fine sludge is usually brown, settles to the bottom, and then you can take a syringe and pull out, like suck out the clarified solution, which turns yellower over time. And pretty much the yellower it gets, the more what I call conditioned it is, the more effective and efficient it is. So over time, not only do you not lose the lye solution or the lye out of the solution, but it becomes more and more efficient. It produces more gas with the same amount of electricity. So then so you pour this back into the machine once you've cleaned out the sludge and just continue. So that we are getting that extra sludge.
So you're just
not coming from the plates,
cleaning out the precipitate. There's just a precipitate, and that's all you're doing is removing the precipitate and then reusing the same fluid over and over and over the entire time.
That's correct.
That's amazing.
Now we do keep adding water because the water keeps coming out as hydrogen and oxygen. So it needs to be replaced on a relatively regular basis. And if you consider the 1860 that I was just talking about before, that means 1 milliliter of water, one little tiny square of water will make 1,866 milliliters of gas, oxygen hydrogen mixture. So when I'm inhaling right now, I'm inhaling at a rate of about what am I doing here? ER50. No, I'm going to call it about 10 liters an hour. So a milliliter of water will last quite a long time, almost a couple of hours at this rate. So if I did it all day, I might have to put in 10 milliliters of water, depending on the rate that I'm producing the gas. So a day. So it doesn't use very much water to produce the gas.
Amazing. Amazing. Now, in the analysis of the gas, are you finding, so when most people, the color, when you burn hydrogen off in an actual flame, the color of the flame is actually coming from sulfur that is there's just a tiny bit of sulfur that is almost always attached in with hydrogen. And that's what's causing the coloring in the flame, is the sulfur actually burning off, where hydrogen in and of itself is just clear. Are you finding any tiny bits of sulfur in with this?
First of all, because of the way we're doing, there isn't any sulfur. It's Li, NaOH, so sodium hydroxide. So it's a sodium, which is a yellow flame, which is if there's any sodium in there. And yes, if you're burning the gas off, the flame is so transparent you can't see it at all unless you're in total darkness. There's a little bit of a bluish tinge, but when we're doing the torches, we like to have a little tiny bit. Remember those little droplets of water I was telling about that had a little bit of the sodium hydroxide in them?
Yep.
Well, then it just takes a teeny little bit of that to color the flame more of a yellowish color. So if you so that can happen, but usually it's blue, or the cone. Like there's a cone that at the beginning where the most of the combustion is taking place. So that's pretty much white, and then it's really transparent the rest of the long flame. But if there is any color in it, it's a yellowish color. Now, if you were burning potassium hydroxide, which is the potassium would be a red flame, a little red tinge to the flame. Now, we don't have any sulfur coming out with this because there's nothing that's sulfur in there. But the sodium hydroxide, it is the yellow. So there is that. There was one other thing I was thinking of, like not remembering right now. Sorry.
Oh, not a problem. Not a problem. No, that's fantastic. Now, so have you tried then putting just the Brown's gas in? So when you take your battery, and like you said, as the battery's operating, it's gonna evaporate off just due to heat. Water, evaporates off just period anyways. So typically what you put back into like say a lead acid battery is going to be distilled water, because you don't want to have any mineral salts out of, like, say, well water going into your battery. Now, have you tried putting your your Brown's gas liquid into that instead, and seeing if that then makes it so the battery holds its voltage better, things like that?
Do you mean distilled water that's been bubbled with Brown's gas?
Yes.
No, I haven't. That'd be an interesting experiment.
Right, because again, this hydrogen seems to make that transfer happen easier. And as like I live off of 40 solar panels, and I've got 24 lead acid batteries. I think they're 1,200 amp hour each, something like that. An L6, lead acid battery. Now, as the battery gets older, what happens with a lot of those, as long as it's not sulfating and you do your regular maintenance and you take care of it, eventually what happens is you end up losing voltage. Your voltage doesn't want to hold. And then eventually you take and you pour the sludge that develops in the battery, similar to your machine. You pour the sludge in out, you put distilled water in it. The distilled water strips any salts that happen to get bound to your plates and whatnot, and pour that back out. And then you put fresh electrolyte in there. And now your battery, it brings it back up to your voltage. It starts holding your voltage again. And it doesn't just dump its voltage as soon as you quit putting power into it. Now, my question is, then if you start running the Brown's gas, well, this is going to, again, the hydrogen is acting mercurially, where it's allowing this energy transfer to happen much easier. And so if you put this Brown's gas distilled water in there, it seems like that would extra hydrogenate it, and that would make the transfer happen that much easier. It would bring that voltage up. I would think
It would be a very interesting experiment to try.
yes.
Batteries themselves, you know, if you overcharge them, they start gassing, and
Yep.
they essentially turn into electrolyzers anyway. So then they have that extra voltage. Yeah, no, I could see where there's interesting things that could happen. It'd be worth trying.
Absolutely, because that's when you're looking at, everybody wants to. So one of the biggest misunderstandings when you're looking at this alternative energy for people is understanding that, while I have 40 solar panels during the day, even no matter what it is, my power input's not going to probably be very constant, short of me having a turbine in a waterfall that's in a fairly available year-round waterfall or something like that, or stream. That's the only really consistently available power. If you're running off of wind power, solar power, you're really going to spend a lot of time living off of a battery bank. And especially in California, even where we have extreme sun all summer, here in about a month, I'm not going to see the sun again until next year. And that's at best. It's going to be raining all the time. The sun's not going to hit down on my mountain right. And so I'm not going to get the angle right. I'm going to go months where I'm going to now have to live off of my battery bank, and I'm not going to get that incoming charge on a daily basis. So the condition of your battery bank and the way that that's flowing is very important on that off-grid life. And another thing, in the winter, once it starts getting cold, your voltage doesn't want to, your system doesn't want to be able to grab out the amperage near as well. It doesn't seem to want to grab out your voltage. It doesn't. The same thing has to have for the same thing to happen. You need higher volts. My system's meant to run off of 48 volts, and obviously you charge it up to 57.6, something like that, a little above 48, because then once you get under 48, just like in the human body where you're talking about when you're sick and you have this lack of energy, everybody understands when your cell phone or your electronics start getting not enough power, not enough voltage, they start doing some real crazy things.
Mhm.
And you start seeing some real odd things happen. So trying to maintain that is of paramount importance, and anything that we could do that's going to make that easier is going to be huge. Because again, while I'm living off of the sun, which is your alternative energy, it's not the greatest because you're not getting consistent flow. It's not the same. And so now we have to look at then energy storage.
But also, it's good to find the consistent energy generation systems. Have you done any experiments with the Tesla technology where they put the thing in the ground? Obviously, you're talking about the galvanic thing, and then an antenna in the sky.
Oh, I have not. I have not done that. I thought you were going to go with the Earth battery there for a minute, but nope.
Well, the Earth is generally negative. It has a reservoir of electrons, and the sky is deficient. So there's a voltage potential, sometimes of hundreds or thousands of volts depending on how high an antenna you could put up and what kind of an antenna you put up. I also have a book called Free Energy Receiver or Accumulator. it actually, I think it's called free energy accumulator, but it also has a free energy receiver stuff in it as well. And it'll give you a bit of an idea of the research that I was doing. I actually won a little award for that particular at an alternative energy symposium for that particular technology. And it isn't
Are
a
you
lot.
using mercury on top of it?
Nope, nope. Those are things that you can add to possibly increase the efficiency even more. It was more like a Benjamin Franklin kind of thing, where you stick a balloon on a wire up in the air, and then you just simply stick a thing in the ground, and you have. They didn't have rectifiers back in those days, but you put in a full wave bridge rectifier, and I did it out of diodes, so I could see which way because which diodes would light up, I could see which way the energy was flowing. Turned out the energy was flowing both ways. So there's several different kinds of energy that can be generated. You've got your static or rather kind of DC energy between the potential of the ground and the sky. But it turns out there's a lot of electromagnetic frequency out there that is absorbable by such a simple device. No moving parts, and it quite nicely keeps batteries charged. So clocks that I have around the house here, that usually have a little AA or AAA size battery in them. I just put in a rechargeable battery and then hook them up to one of these things, go into ground and an antenna, and I never have to charge or change the battery in that clock again. It just continues to operate continuously, well, for decades now.
Fantastic.
So something like that could possibly help keep your batteries charged if you batteries that aren't being used. Like at this point, I've only done trickle currents. I haven't done large amounts of current, but I thought I'd throw that out there as something that possibly is of value to you. Yeah,
oh, absolutely. Because
there's another thing that can be done with Brown's gas. Have you heard of Al Throckmorton's what he called the Lord's pump?
No, I have not.
Okay. Do you know what a piston-less pump is?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So piston-less pump it needs a charge of some sort of combustible gas, and as the gas burns and explodes, it pushes down on the fluid, and then when it gets done, then it makes a vacuum as the combustion is finished, and it sucks more fluid in. So you just keep pumping fluid that way through a couple of check valves. Okay, just for the people who may not understand how a piston-less pump works. Anyway, he discovered, Al Throckmorton took one of my electrolyzers and stuck it on this piston-less pump that he was experimenting with. And if his figures are correct, which I haven't had time to verify, because at about the time I was starting to experiment with that, my life went sideways with my late wife. So in any case, and I wasn't able to work on anything. So I'm just now kind of getting back into all the research and what have you that was necessary. In any case, excuse me while I collect myself again. When I'm talking about my late wife, it just takes a second. But
absolutely, brother. Oof, I can't imagine. I really can't. To say,
because I am remarried happily. She's a wonderful woman. I'm having a great life with her. She wishes I could spend more time with her because I'm working, long hours every day these days, which I really love that she wants to spend time with me. So I try to make that happen. In any case,
isn't it nice when they like you?
yeah, that's right. I try to have them remember that for the times that I screw up.
You betcha.
Okay, so in any case, the pump with the Brown's gas worked so well. His figures were 10 times over unity, and since you're pumping water, the amount of energy that you're outputting is really easily measured, because you can just pump it into a tank, and the water level is here, and now this much water at this much time is up here, and you can measure the amount of electrical energy it took to make the Brown's gas, that's your energy input and your energy output right there. I still couldn't believe that and I'm started to duplicate that experiment myself, but I hadn't yet got a chance to do that. Yeah. And
another really interesting thing would be, like, if you took and hooked that up, since your Brown's gas machine is only taking 2 volts, if I recall correctly, you were saying 2 volts?
It's less than 2 volts per cell, but you're talking wattage here, so you also have to measure the amperage. So
right.
Times amps, yeah.
Yeah, it just would be really interesting if you had, you know, your own antenna attachment, and the entire thing was self-independent,
That's
functioning
correct.
energy by
You
itself,
get
that would
well
be
with this
fantastic.
electrical the system I was just telling you about. You get well over 2 volts. You can get up to 5 volts. So the just with the grid, the antenna ground thing I was talking about. So the so yes, you
You getting
can
5 volts?
up to 5 volts. Yeah,
Woo!
and that's
That's
without
impressive.
that's just per. That's not when you start putting things in series
Right,
or going
right.
with the voltage multiplier capacitor arrangements, which I also explain in the book. So it's theoretically possible to get much more voltage than, especially if you go with the DC voltage between the ground and the sky. You can end up with thousands of volts. But the electromagnetic frequency always gave me at least 2 volts and more. So at that point, you could literally be generating your Brown's gas from environmental energies at no cost to you whatsoever, other than the apparatus that you set up. And it's no moving parts. You just have to keep adding water to the Brown's gas machine. So you're making your gas, which then can do the thing of pumping water or whatever the case may be. Yeah, you're right.
Hmm.
Yep.
See, and I was thinking that because I was last night, in the last so many days, while I was really digging through and making sure I had understood what you're talking about and familiarized myself. One of the things you haven't mentioned yet is that hydroponic plants that you're running with this are growing up to 10 times in size. So
in speed, they only
in
grow to
speed,
this. They only grow to the what their DNA allows, but they
right,
grow
right.
much faster.
Yep.
Okay, so if
So
you're giving Brown's gas to plants that are in soil, they grow about 3 times faster than they normally would. So your harvest times, if people are getting 2 crops a year, they can get 3 or even 4, depending
mhm.
on where they are. And down in California, I imagine you get even more than we do up here in the north. So
Oh yeah.
down, yeah. But if you're doing hydroponics, like you were saying, and I have the videos again on my website. You obviously saw them,
Yep.
where the people were getting 10 times the speed. So when they were looking at the strawberries, some strawberry plants that weren't getting the gas were barely developed and maybe even just had a flowering stage, whereas others had like 10 strawberries on them already. The ones that were getting the Brown's gas, yeah, it's astonishing. And fish, if you're doing aquaponics or even just having
Hmm.
koi or something where you're growing fish for money or food, they grow about 3 times faster if you're putting the Brown's gas in the water. So they're actually inhaling or ingesting the Brown's gas the same as they would the oxygen in the water, and they grow faster. They don't grow any bigger, but they grow faster. Yes.
Right. They're reaching that maximum size, like you said, that their DNA allows. Now, this is a huge development, especially if you can make it so it's running off its own atmospheric, because as we're seeing in today's society, we're seeing an extreme breakdown in the supply chain, and food is the most major concern. If you've got a little bit of shelter, you can get by without most of these things. People don't realize how you and I,
Mhm.
you know, you speak about living as a child, taking cold baths, not having electricity, obviously living off wood. You know, you've understood this life without comforts. Waking up at 5 in the morning and walking out freezing balls, like just curling in on yourself, and you can't do nothing about it. You're like, I gotta go out and do this anyways. Like, you know,
Yeah,
um,
you know why they call it a honey bucket, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Honey, take out the bucket.
Exactly. Holy smoke. Um, but people don't realize how extraordinarily comfortable their lives are, and what levels that most people today live better than a king would have 200 years ago. You have more access to more exotic foods, spices. Now, in that, we've decided to start buying and living horribly in that excess. And now our supply chain's falling apart, and people don't realize, are going to start realizing all the things that they can actually live without. And food is one of the ones they cannot. And if you're talking about something that is able to grow food 10 times faster, that means that your production of something like microgreens and vegetables and the basic things that everybody needs to survive, those things in anybody's backyard, you could start being self-sufficient, self-productive, And if you're doing it off of atmospheric energy, this is costing you almost no money.
Exactly.
This is that's the wave of the future right there. Not including the health benefits for yourself.
Yeah, and a lot of people are experiencing rolling brownouts or blackouts. Again, it's suddenly a regular hydroponic system, the lights go out or the pump stop working. You need to have your own system one way or another. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, in that hydroponic system, are you finding with this, with using this Brown's gas, are you having less issue with, because one of the biggest issues with the hydroponic systems is root rot, where, you know, the roots are consistently moist. A lot of times they aren't able, the oxygen factor starts falling down, which is why you have to bubble your water in order to keep the oxygenation up, because a lot of people don't realize that while the green parts of the plant want carbon dioxide, that root system needs oxygen.
Correct.
And so root rot is one of the bigger problems that you end up having in that type of a grow system. Does this tend to stem off root rot?
Generally, I would say yes. Again, you're doing the bubbling, which is putting the oxygen in the water. Like fish can literally survive in Brown's gas bubbled water. You're not bubbling any oxygen in there. You're only bubbling the Brown's gas in there. So they can breathe the oxygen. There's enough, it saturates the water with oxygen and the hydrogen and the electrically expanded water. So you're getting those electrons, which are vital to everything that's going on. And actually, that's part of what they're experimenting when they're talking about the therapeutic efficacy of the Brown's gas. They're actually testing it on zebrafish. They're actually in the fish tanks. They're wounding the fish and seeing how fast they heal, and they heal 30% faster with the Brown's gas than they do with hydrogen, with just straight hydrogen.
That's amazing.
Bubbling in there. So the so yes, in agriculture or hydroponics or aquaponics, it makes the whole system, and it comes down to health again. You need health of the soil, and in this case, a substrate, whatever you're using to keep. But with the hydroponics, it's good to keep the roots so they don't dry out, but they get the surges. You don't necessarily keep it wet all the time, right? Different crops require different amounts of or whatever you're doing, the strategies. But the plant gets some nutrients, most of the nutrients through the water. That's how it gets fed, and and it gets the carbon part of it's because plants again are mostly hydrogen and oxygen and then carbon and then everything else. But they get their part of what they do is they, just like we get our hydrogen from our microbiome in our guts, we have the same similar situation with the plants. It's actually the microbiome that grows in the soil and on the roots that is converting these various things to something that the plant can absorb and get nutrition from. So keeping that microbiome healthy is essential, and that's what the Brown's gas does. And again, like our own immune system, making us healthy and our microbiome healthy keeps all the bad germs in check. Again, back to terrain theory. You're looking at keeping a wonderful, healthful environment for the plant, not the germs.
Well, and the same thing with the German new medicine, where it's a lack, where you have caught, if your body is in perfect order, you're never going to take on any kind of a disease. You're not going to get in, things like that. Short of getting injured, you're going to stay in good health. As long as all the components are there, it's only when you start having these lacks that the human body is going to fill that in with whatever it can grab. If it needs a piece and you don't give it the proper piece, it'll fill in with whatever it can fit in there. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to work near as well. And that's where, if you do that year after year after year, that's where you start developing these complete breakdowns of the body and cancers, things like that, because you've not given your body the pieces that it needs throughout the years, and it's just kind of filled it in. I always like to use the example of, you started out with a Lego body, and now you've been filling it in with Duplos, and now at the end, you're like, I don't know what's even going on, so you got to start getting them Legos back in there and getting that thing back to the way it's supposed to operate. That's absolutely beautiful, and it's beautiful hearing you talk about the biome of the plant. I go on about that a lot. being an off-grid farmer, it's growing permaculture. The soil is the stomach of the plant, and people don't realize how very much your stomach affects your personality, your ability to think, your ability to rationalize. Your stomach is literally its own mind, and that mind, if you aren't treating it right, if you're filling it full of pop, and because you filled it with full of pop and sugars and corn syrup and things, now your stomach develops a biome that's this enzyme that's specifically made to break down processed sugars and not break down foods and things like that. And so your thinking entirely changes because your entire body's operating off of a different system now. It's fairly amazing.
Exactly. Literally the thoughts, but also the moods and such, which then affect the thoughts as well. Like your people get hyper, they can't think, they get brain fog, they get all the kinds of things. I'm so happy to be talking with you. So many people, they get the glazed look in their eye as soon as you start talking about these kind of things.
Absolutely. No, this is wonderful. Like as I've been, I heard you on, somebody had sent me your Higher Side Chats talk, and I was immediately just, wow. And I sent it out to my buddy Lucas and some of my other more intelligent friends. I was like, you have got to watch this. This is the stuff right here. It's just fascinating. I love the work that you're doing, and that you're not a greedy man. You're a man after myself. Like if you look after my stuff, I'm not about charging people, and I'm trying to make things cheap and livable, and just trying to generally help people. It's an absolute honor to talk to you. Absolute honor.
Yeah,
You
people
bet.
don't seem to realize that we live in a world of abundance. It's always been that way. The more the people, the more the abundance. Especially the people that do something and produce. There's so many people that aren't doing anything, and they're just living off the efforts of the people who have done the production. And it's possible that maybe these hard times that are coming are necessary to kind of get people back into that groove where the people that don't know how to do something anymore, they'll just kind of leave us, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
But the people that actually get down and dirty and produce, do it. But when you're looking at the Brown's gas, for example, we're talking about, I'd like to have one in every home, because
Yes.
it will make hospitals and most of the pharmaceuticals obsolete, because the pharmaceutical industry out there is all about treating symptoms. They're not about healing disease, whereas this actually heals disease, so you don't have symptoms. You cure the terrain instead of trying to just treat the germs. So I mean, goodness gracious, if you get a broken bone, then you can go perhaps to a hospital or something, but you won't otherwise really need that. And people will live longer, they'll live healthier, they'll be more productive, and the people that want to produce can and will, and people naturally do. I mean, how many people really just want to sit on a beach? I not very many of my friends. and I have sat down and read books and enjoyed it, but if I'm sitting on a beach for a day, I'm pretty much done with that. Okay, on to, I have so many ideas floating around in my head. And when we go back to the Brown's gas, I'd like one in every home. There's I don't know, call it 1 billion homes out there. I can't possibly fill that, and I don't know of any company that could, not even GM, over a period of time. So we need a whole bunch of people making these things. There's abundance there. There's billions, maybe trillions of dollars sitting on the table for people just to pick up and start going. And I'm actually making a course on a manufacturing course for people to do that. So anybody that's interested, just get in touch with me by the email, and I'll send you get on my email mailing list. And as soon as I get this course finished, I actually already have the course finished, and there's already been one person go through the course, but then all these lockdowns happened and people couldn't come to my shop to take the course, which was an in-person course at the time. So I just finished video shooting the course. It'll take a little while for my videographers to edit it and make it, but in a relatively short time, I will have the course on how to build the AquaCure machines, and we'll set up the people so that they can build these AquaCure machines everywhere. I want to see as many of these things pop up as possible. I don't want to make one mega factory that I'm the one in control and just everything goes through me kind of thing. I'm trying to diversify this thing so that people are independent of me. Everybody will have their own little business. Even if you make one aquacure a month in your garage or in your kitchen, living room, little side sewing room, whatever, wherever you set it up, you can make a decent living doing that. And you're helping your family, your friends, and your community, not only with the machines themselves and the health that comes from that, but from the income that you're making and spending locally and what have you. It's
Other people that you're employing, giving jobs, the just general, the quality of food is going to come up, the quality of health, just life starts getting better. People don't, for so long now, people have gotten to where money, they'll destroy themselves for money. And the only thing money should have ever been good for is making a good life. So if you're destroying that life for the money, this is really ass backwards. You know, the only thing money was ever supposed to do was make your life better and make it so you're able to exchange goods with other people. It
that's
wasn't supposed to be something you live for.
in and of itself. That's correct. And that's why the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. And if you're just using money as it's meant to be, as an exchange of goods and services, a medium of exchange, there's nothing wrong with that. That's it's necessary. We couldn't have a society like we have because this guy has a cow and he wants a loaf of bread. You got to have some way of exchanging value there. So everybody agrees on some value, a medium of exchange, and that's good. But accumulating huge reserves of this medium of exchange, what does that good do for anybody?
No
And
way.
it seems like the people who are the richest in the world then use that inappropriately to amass power. For what reason? I mean,
Yeah,
why do you want to control the world?
I
Why?
have no idea. I live out in a hole in the mountains, and I rarely see other people, and have no desire to control them. I just do what you're doing, I'll do what I'm doing. And that's, people get really scared out in the mountains because that's what we do. And people get really intimidated by that and like, oh, your neighbors are crazy. So they stay over there. They don't come over here and bother me. What difference does it make to me what they're doing? I don't know what he's doing over there. It sounds insane. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. It's when we can start living in that and just. But that's the whole thing is they had to take away the the idea that we can all just live free. They had to take that away and make it so that way there's this scarcity. That's a thing that they had to sell in order to get us to follow this path. You take that away, we all start growing our own food. Uh, we use the Brown's gas, and hydroponics is such an easy system for growing like microgreens and things like that. And you just set up a little system, and now all of a sudden you might not have all the flavorful things that you wanted, which is again brings us back to where we needed spices 200 years ago. I might not have been able to have some cinnamon with my oatmeal, but I had oatmeal.
Mhm.
That's what counts. And now that I have that basic necessity taken care of, while I might want that spice and enjoy it, I'm not willing to do some really crazy things for it. So we can't start twisting society the way we could because everybody is now independent again. You can't make independent men do insane things. They're just going to, why? I don't need you. I'm going to go home.
Yes, yes. As you were talking there about your neighbors, I remember back on the ranch, our nearest neighbor was a mile away, and I knew people 9 miles away much more intimately than today in a town, knowing people on the next block. It's really twisted around. People cram together and they communicate less.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. They do everything they can to avoid each other. Where, yeah, we're out in the country. If we see the neighbor out in the field, we'll go out of our way to go stop and spend 2 hours jacking jaws. And then, oh, well, I got to get back to work. Yeah, me too. You betcha. You bet. Absolutely.
It's a much
Um,
better life and more healthy. And
Yep,
it's all about
absolutely.
fear. That's what they're doing here with these people trying to control us. And then the people that aren't afraid because their necessities are met, we're not very controllable.
No, no. And we can think. What people don't realize is when you're in fear, the reason that they need to put you in fear is because when you're in fear, you go off an automated response. And most people have two responses when you're in fear. And that's because you're not supposed to think when you're in fear. There's a bear over here getting ready to munch me. I'm not going to sit and think about things. I either need to fight or run. Those are the two things I need to do. No other options. I'm not going to think about, well, is that bear got kids? How's he feeling? You just do your thing. And when they put you in that consistently, you never actually start accessing your higher thinking. You aren't going to start thinking of a better way out of it. When you're being chased by the bear, you don't start coming up with great excessive plans to make it, well, maybe if I would have fenced off the yard so bears couldn't get in, all those things, all that's gone. All that's gone. All you have is run and do it and just survive.
Yep.
They need to keep you in that, or else you're going to start actually realizing the ways that you could get out of it,
Yep.
the ways that you could improve your life.
Yeah.
And so they need that fear.
And the interesting thing is they've managed to make people afraid of something that doesn't exist. Just by putting
Yes.
out a rumor, there's a bear in the neighborhood.
Yes.
Has
Hey,
anybody
hey,
seen the
you
bear? No, nobody.
you are not a bear expert. I am a bear expert. You don't know. This bear he's like Bigfoot. You just don't see the signs. I'm the expert.
Yeah,
Trust
he's
me.
got canines this long, and it's like
Yes.
it's tearing you apart. And he's so fast and shadowy, you never even see him coming. Yeah,
Absolutely.
make people afraid of
Absolutely.
something so small you can't see it, so they can't verify that it's there.
Yep. And then you need to rely on an authority outside of yourself to deal with it.
Yeah,
Because if it was a bear in my yard, I'm going to come up with a way to deal with it. I've got my alpacas and my birds and all that. I'm going to deal with the bear. But this thing that I can't see or understand or deal with, now I've got to rely on this authority outside of myself.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, as farmers,
You betcha.
we're used to that. I remember when I was a kid, my dad would hand me a rifle in the morning and say, "Go get supper."
Yep, you betcha. And if you don't, and there's no whining, there's nothing, there's no safety net. If you don't go do your thing, you're not going to eat. You don't get to wake up and go, I don't feel like it today. No, you just go do your thing.
Yes, exactly. And that, yeah, I remember so much, and it's incredible all the stories that I have. I wonder how I managed to pack up that much living into the life that I was doing at the time. You're doing it, and every day you're doing what you're doing, and you go with the flow of nature. When it's time to make hay, you make hay. When the sun shines, you make hay, and when the rain comes, you fix machinery and all these kind of things.
You bet.
And you just are always doing what's needing to be done. You have some plan in mind, and what you do now affects your life 6 months or 6 years in the future. You gotta have an infrastructure in place and what have you. Many people depend on an infrastructure that's outside of their control. So they really need to get more independent. And so what's happening is we have a whole bunch of, like, we have millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dependents, and we need to help people be more independent, because you can't have what they call interdependency unless you have independent people. Otherwise, because dependent people can't be interdependent. They can't help each other. They can't even help themselves.
Yep, you can't feed anybody out of a bare field. You need to fill your own field first.
Yeah.
I love it. I love talking to you.
Yeah.
You're just perfect. Perfect. Well,
Well,
George,
you get
why
knocked
don't
on the
you?
head a few times, you learn something, or you don't, I suppose.
You
Yeah.
bet. You bet. Why don't you put out your website? Give everybody your website. Tell everybody where they can find you at. Put out all your information so everybody can come start looking at all your hard work and start making use of it.
Well, as far as the Brown Scats for Health is where I'd like to really concentrate on people, have people concentrate on, is eagle-research.life, Life. So Eagle like the bird, EAGLE, because that's my totem. And then research, because that's what I do. Make sure to put in the dash mark, the hyphen mark between Eagle and research, or you'll go off to a different website. So eagle-research.life, and that website I set up just for the aquacure and the health purposes and things like that. It's just kind of couched there, but it'll give you a good idea of what's going on. And then from that point, if you want to buy an aquacure, it'll take you over to the eagle-research.com website e-store, and you just purchase it from there. If you're in the alternative energy interest, well, then just go over to the eagle-research.com website and start poking around. I have had to reset up that website because I originally built it in 1996, and so it was a legacy website. And when HostGator in Texas upgraded their servers the last time a couple of years ago, they no longer supported the legacy websites because they were too easily hacked and what have you. And so my website literally disappeared from the internet overnight. That was a shock. And yeah, well, they had kind of warned me that it was coming. It's not like, and I had to get some of my web tech friends to set it up again on another server, and so we're rebuilding the Eagle Research website. It doesn't have all the functionality that it did originally, but it's still fun to go in and take a look around and see what's going on there. And I just haven't had time to do a lot with it since then, because I've been working with the aquacure and Brown's Gas for Health situation, and there are now thousands and thousands of people out there that are doing the Brown's Gas for Health, and every day I'm getting in the testimonials, and that warms my heart. It helps me get up in the morning, every morning, looking at these things and helping people, because when they report back what's happening with them, it's why I breathe these days. Yeah, it's very good.
That's fantastic. I love it. Love it. I absolutely want to get into it myself. And actually, my mom is going through cancer treatment and surgery right now. I'd be very interested in seeing how that helps her out. I had already been trying to get her to move over to, because my mom's from South Dakota, and up there we don't live the healthiest. When I moved to California, I found such a wonderful different the vegetation here and the way that everything is here. Up in the Midwest, everything's shipped up there, so meat's the only thing that we really have fresh, grain from the summer and meat, that's about it. So she hasn't been eating too well and not getting them good fresh vegetables and fruits and getting all that, so I've been trying to get her into that, and I think this would also then really try and help pick
really
that up.
It really will, yes.
Yep, you
So
betcha.
it helps the body regain its health. Now it takes several months, and it was 4 years in, when I was inhaling for 4 years, that I suddenly noticed that I was washing my toes in the shower without leaning against the wall. Now it may not seem a big thing, but I had my toes right up where I could easily wash them, and I was standing on one leg and realized I got my balance back. I could put on my pants without sitting on the bed to put on my pants. It was something when I realized,
which is not something that happens as you get older. That is not the way that works. It is very much the opposite.
It was. There was, in order to put on my shoes and stuff, I would have to sit down, and now I can just put in. And I realized that suddenly I was doing this, which is, like you say, the exact opposite. And if you look at my pictures from the past, you'll see that I now look like I did like 15 years ago. And if you look at like I say, the picture on the YouTube where I did myself when I first started inhaling, I was pure white and what have you. So I've gone backwards biologically in my aging process, but I'm also a lot more healthy than I was even back then, because I don't have the warts or the neuropathies or what have you. Even my what is it? It's YouTube, Facebook, I think it is. Anyway, one of those platforms that I don't visit very often anymore.
Well, I can't imagine you have time.
Well, first of all, that's true, but second of all, I kind of get upset when I see all the suppression and stuff that's going on and the lies that they're telling. So lies that I can prove are incorrect information, and so I tend to avoid that simply because I like to think happier thoughts. But I was wearing glasses back when I was, well, since I was 9 years old, up until recently. So there's pictures of me still wearing glasses, and I generally don't wear them anymore. I think my driver's license says I still have to have them, so I carry them with me. So if I get stopped, I can put them on and pretend like I was
Even improved your eyesight.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Which once again, everybody should understand that basically your body is a big battery, and anytime a battery starts getting depleted, when the voltage becomes too low, when things don't work right, you start seeing some really weird things happen. Your electronics will just start going and things will pop up. You can't open up apps. It just doesn't work right, even though it's on. That same thing's happening to your body. It's on, it's running, it's doing something, but things start working real sideways, and it's just trying to function through the crap. We just got to get it back to that optimal health, and then you don't have these problems.
That's exactly right. Every cell has its own little energy generation and voltage in it. So every little cell has its own battery, if you will. So of all the billions and trillions, but it's also important to keep in mind the microbiome, which isn't just in your guts. You have it in your skin and in your body, all over in your body. I think I've seen there's almost as much not us in us as there is us. And a lot of that is symbiotic. We work together with it, but there's the pathogens in there that our immune system keeps tamped down. You bad boy, there's no way to get rid of that. But your body, when it's healthy, can keep it under control.
Well, and them pathogens, even when we look at them, so like when you look at the way a battery works, at the anode, a degeneration needs to happen, which is a pathogen. It's causing a degeneration. But it's when now if we had too much of that pathogen and the anode just all broke down at once, now the system's going to fail. Where we need this metered breakdown, where it's doing it in a symbiosis, and then it's breaking down over here, it getting refined, and then put back together over here, and it's this nice oscillation back and forth between the two. Your body needs those pathogens in order to keep itself cleaned out. That's no different than in a plant. When you look at like the roots, part of what keeps your roots nice is that there's other little bacteria that are actually eating at it and eating away at it, which takes away the caking on the outside and keeps all the gunk off it. And now they're able to suck in the fresh energy. So while those things might be a pathogen in excess, when it's not in excess, when it's in proper balance, they have their own use, and you would have a hard time surviving without them.
That is absolutely correct. Absolutely. So yes, and there's a lot of things that people don't like that have a use in the body, and they're kept there in reserve to be used when necessary. And well, I remember when I had a 50 herd goat herd, and I did really well with them, and I left them in care of my father-in-law, who thought he would give them a treat, and so he was giving them alfalfa hay. And anyone who understands goats, which he did not, realizes they essentially live on bark and straw and stuff like that. When they gave them really highly nutritious food, the microbiome in their guts went crazy, which isn't necessary in order to digest that, and they love that, of course, but the byproduct, the poop, if you will, from those microbiome is a neurotoxin. So suddenly the goats that were eating this very highly nutritious food would simply freeze solid and drop over dead.
Yep.
Overeating disease, they called it, which is somewhat similar to a lot of the diseases that we're getting in our own human population these days as well. The point is,
absolutely,
even a good microbiome, the things that are supposed to be there, can have in excess, like this neurotoxin generated, that then causes, cause them just to die.
Yep. You betcha. I actually last year somebody one of the bales that I got of grass hay had a bunch of clover in it, and I lost a goat and one goat and 2 alpacas to it.
Yep.
You betcha. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was pretty
those-
furious.
Yeah, those ungulates, they have a really efficient digestive system. Now horses and pigs and a simple stomach, they could eat that stuff, and even us kind of. But but those ungulates, yeah, you got to feed them a little more roughage.
You betcha. You betcha. Which is part of why I got them, because I live out in the mountains. So they're normally eating scrub and berry bushes out there, eating the blackberries and huckleberries up and things like that. So I don't have to ham that much. But then, like you said, then when somebody makes a mistake and throws that in there, that's no good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You'd think it was a good thing, but it's not. I remember when I'd fall a tree, the goat herd would just descend on it, and because they love the little branches and the bark at the tip of the tree and stuff. Yeah,
You betcha. Yeah, and even with the parasites, like they're keeping their own parasites in balance, because then they go and eat the needles off the pine, and people don't realize that turpentine, your pine derivative, that's an extreme anti viral and antibacterial thing. That's going to get rid of parasites real nice.
yes, that's correct.
You
And
betcha.
that's another point that I love to point out is that when you start to understand the what's on the planet, every environment has everything we need to survive. The universe set it up so nicely. I would say God, but we could say universe, however anyone is believing. But like you need vitamin C, and you're in the northern woods, you're not going to get any oranges. But the tips on the conifers, the new growth on them is extremely high in vitamin C. So virtually every nutrition thing you need is available everywhere if you know where and how to look for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been an absolute honor talking to you, George. Wow. You're an amazing gentleman. I would love to sit down with you sometime and have coffee. That's I don't drink coffee myself, but have tea.
I don't either. I drink distilled water that's bubbled with brown gas.
Nice. Yeah.
But getting together, absolutely. We would make our wives' eyes glaze over as soon as we started talking.
Absolutely. Well, it's been an absolute honor. Thank you very much for coming on, and I would absolutely love to have you back on again 6 months down the road or something, and talk about any other progressions and whatever other things that I'm learning as I'm going along with it, and check back in.
That sounds wonderful. And by the way, I'm just installing a solar system on my house here.
Love it.
25 kilowatt system with the lithium batteries and what have you.
25.
So, yeah. Well, I need it for essentially the factory and stuff. If the power goes out, I can't build machines or anything anymore. So, yeah.
Yep, I've got a 25K whisper watt backup.
Good. Yeah, I'm looking ahead and seeing this Armageddon like thing, train barreling down the tracks, and I'm just doing the best I can to prepare to help as many people as I can. And you can't help somebody else if you aren't set up yourself. So that's where we're starting from.
Absolutely agree. Can't feed nobody out of a bare field. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, George. And
love you, man.
You have an excellent afternoon. I love you too, brother.
This has been great, and 6 months down the road is going to be interesting.
Oh, look, I look forward to it, and I definitely need to meet you in person sometime. A kindred spirit. Love it.
Seriously.
Thank you very much, George.
We could do this. May the blessings be.
Have an excellent day, brother.